Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have gone on yet another faux royal tour, as Sarah Ferguson may be arrested next.
And she hasn't been in touch with him at all. So we're going to expose every cringeworthy...
For lots of pictures. They were invited there by China's favorite health organization, the World Health Organization.
February 28, 2026. Harry and Meghan touched down in Jordan, convinced this visit was about to completely rewrite the narrative for them. The strategy seemed ambitious on the surface: a goodwill mission, a collaboration with the WHO, film crews documenting every single moment. It was designed to come across as a significant turning point, the kind that generates momentum in the press and draws the public eye back toward them. Yet behind closed doors, they executed one particular move that was intended to lock everything in place. Their representatives dispatched an official letter to the Jordanian royal household, formally requesting a private audience with the king and queen. A discreet meeting, royal to royal, the sort of occasion that would communicate genuine standing and mutual acknowledgement. And the reply they received was silence. No courteous expression of regret, no mention of a prior engagement, not even a brief confirmation, just quiet, complete quiet, as though the correspondence had simply vanished into thin air. That uncomfortable stillness was merely the opening act. What came to light over the following 48 hours sent tremors through royal observers across the globe. Those with connections to the palace began speaking up. Sources started murmuring behind the scenes, and by the time this story reaches its conclusion, you'll understand precisely why Princess Anne ultimately decided she could no longer hold her tongue anymore. If you're just joining us, go ahead and subscribe and make sure notifications are switched on. We bring you stories exactly like this the second they surface. And don't forget to leave a like on the video as well. It genuinely helps a wider audience discover the channel. Now let's dive straight into what took place next. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were set to visit.
Here's what most people are missing. This trip was never some random, spur-of-the-moment decision. It wasn't Harry and Meghan rolling out of bed one morning and thinking, let's go make a difference today. Not even close. Every single detail of this move was mapped out well ahead of time, carefully constructed and deliberately calculated as far back as mid-2025. And once you understand what was truly behind it, the whole picture starts to look completely different. By the middle of 2025, the Sussex brand was going through a rough stretch. The public goodwill they once commanded was gradually eroding, and the strong momentum they had previously built wasn't carrying the same weight anymore. Partnerships weren't coming together the way they used to. The excitement surrounding them was dying down, and the story being told about them was beginning to unravel. That's precisely when the playbook came out. They needed something big to change the narrative entirely, something that appeared purposeful, something that carried weight, something that would plant them back under the spotlight for all the right reasons. So they engineered a plan built entirely around that concept. On the outside, it appeared straightforward enough. Align with the World Health Organization and dress the entire trip up as a humanitarian mission.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have gone to Jordan, of all places. It's a little bit of a peculiar...
Everything they were about to set in motion. An alliance with the World Health Organization commands respect immediately. It carries credibility. It feels legitimate. More importantly, it gives cameras something substantial to point at rather than two celebrities desperately clinging to relevance. And that was the blueprint from day one. Coat the entire journey in that humanitarian glow. Present it as a worldwide mission and let the attention it generated swing open the doors to major media opportunities further down the line. Because beneath all the speeches and carefully staged photo moments, the real objective was crystal clear. Generate buzz, manufacture headlines, and ride that wave to lock down high-value media contracts once the trip captured international attention. But here is where the story takes a genuinely fascinating turn. They didn't simply arrive and cross their fingers hoping things would fall into place. This was far more calculated than that. Their team put together a formal letter printed on thick, cream-colored stationery, still bearing the Sussex coronet as though it commanded the same royal authority it once held. And this letter didn't pass through a publicist or get fired off as a casual email. It went directly to the Jordanian royal court, a formal request, a proper diplomatic exchange, and most critically, a private meeting with King Abdullah and Queen Rania themselves. Just sit with that for a second. Someone actually sat down, carefully composed that message, had it printed on official-looking letterhead, and sent it off fully expecting the palace to receive it with complete seriousness.
Andrew's had one of the biggest falls from grace of anyone you can ever remember. I mean,
They directed it toward one of the most distinguished royal courts on the planet and genuinely anticipated a response. In their minds, King Abdullah, a leader widely recognized for his deep and long-standing personal friendship with William and Catherine, would unseal that letter and immediately extend a warm welcome. The expectation appeared to be that he would receive them in the same manner he would greet visiting dignitaries, active working royals, or official representatives of the crown. It was almost as though the events of the past several years, the withdrawal from royal responsibilities and the growing separation from the palace, had simply never taken place. And that moment reveals a great deal about the mindset driving this entire operation, because this wasn't simply ambition doing the talking. It exposed a profound disconnect from how things genuinely function within royal circles. The assumption baked into that letter was straightforward, that the Sussex name still carried sufficient weight to walk directly into a foreign royal court and be welcomed at the very highest level. But here is where reality steps in sharply. There was absolutely no official backing supporting it, no formal mandate, no quiet phone call from Buckingham Palace smoothing the path forward or lending any kind of endorsement to the request.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Nothing more than a coronet stamped on the letterhead and the conviction that it would somehow be sufficient. This wasn't simply a bold gamble. It was the kind of decision that only makes sense when you genuinely believe you are still operating at a level the rest of the world no longer recognizes in the same way. The entire venture had been constructed around one sweeping assumption, that they could move independently across the global stage and that the Sussex name alone would still be powerful enough to unlock the right doors. Jordan was supposed to prove exactly that. This journey was intended to be the defining moment that demonstrated to everyone watching that they no longer needed anybody's blessing or approval. The concept was straightforward. Step out onto the international stage, engage in meaningful humanitarian work, produce compelling images for the cameras, and return home with their influence appearing more formidable than ever. That was the plan in its entirety. By mid-2025, Harry and Meghan were completely committed to that vision. When that envelope was sealed and dispatched to Amman, they were fully anticipating a response that would set the entire visit into motion and validate everything they had been working toward. But what came back, or more precisely, what failed to come back at all, ended up reshaping the entire situation in ways they clearly had not prepared themselves for.
That I wrote however they refused. After multiple attempts, dressings are being done on.
So the letter was sent. The stationery looked immaculate, the coronet displayed prominently at the top, and Harry and Meghan settled in to await the response. But here is the twist that nobody saw coming. There was no courteous refusal. There wasn't even a formal rejection letter sent in return. Total silence. The kind of silence that leaves absolutely no space for misinterpretation. No acknowledgement, no reply, no indication whatsoever that the request was even being looked at. King Abdullah and Queen Rania, two of the most widely admired monarchs on the entire global stage, did not respond at all. And this was no casual oversight. It was not a scheduling conflict or a piece of correspondence that somehow got misplaced along the way. King Abdullah and Queen Rania share a well-documented and deeply rooted friendship with William and Catherine that stretches back many years. These are leaders who do not simply ignore official correspondence by accident, which makes that silence feel extraordinarily deliberate. It established the tone for everything that came afterward, because despite receiving no response whatsoever, Harry and Meghan pressed forward with the trip regardless. They touched down in Jordan anyway, cameras at the ready, and their production crew already positioned on the ground to document every single moment as it unfolded.
Community. This is the community Gaza's cooking for Gaza.
The entire operation continued pressing forward as though the snub had never occurred. And when they touched down in Jordan, they didn't scale back their expectations either. Quite the opposite. The requests purportedly started growing larger. Their team allegedly put in an ask for a motorcade and military-grade security, the kind of arrangements typically reserved for working royals during official state visits. But Jordan's Ministry of Interior looked at that request and delivered a remarkably clear answer: no. From their standpoint, this was not a state visit by any definition. There was no official mandate underpinning it, no diplomatic communication from the British monarch had been issued confirming any formal role or recognized authority behind the trip. Without that foundation of support, the entire picture looked fundamentally different. So as far as Jordanian officials were concerned, Harry and Meghan were arriving as private individuals on a working visit. And that meant they would receive precisely the same level of arrangements extended to any other private visitors. Now, pause and consider that moment for just a second. You have invested months pulling this journey together. Teams coordinated, schedules locked in, cameras positioned, everything constructed around the firm belief that your name still commands serious influence on the world stage. Then suddenly you find yourself standing in Amman being told that the level of treatment you fully anticipated simply will not be provided. The gap between what they envisioned this visit would become and what it actually turned into could not have been any more stark. And things were only about to become considerably more complicated from there.
Catching them. And this footage is always just so frustrating to watch because it seems like they're important people with a horde of.
And the awkwardness only continued mounting from there. While Meghan was out around the city filming humanitarian-style content, something else entirely began drawing people's attention. Queen Rania was photographed participating in a local education initiative just a few miles away. She was visibly out in public, engaging with people, clearly active and present that day, yet somehow completely unavailable throughout the entire duration of the Sussex visit.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry make surprise trip to Jordan, visit young Gaza burn victim in.
Then came the remark that truly set diplomatic circles buzzing. At a certain moment, a Jordanian official reportedly let slip a line that spread rapidly through official channels. The comment was brief yet pointed. The Queen of Jordan does not appear in advertisements for streaming platforms. That statement traveled swiftly and eventually reached ears back in London. Why did it land with such force? Because it sliced right through the carefully constructed humanitarian message and voiced what everyone was already thinking. Within those official corridors, people appeared to grasp what the Sussex trip was genuinely designed to accomplish, and by all accounts, most had little desire to become part of that particular narrative. One after another, the anticipated moments simply failed to materialize. The motorcade they had requested never showed up. The grand royal reception never took place, and the private meeting they had formally sought through that meticulously drafted letter on premium stationery never came to fruition. Instead, the Jordanian royal household conveyed their stance through something far more powerful than spoken words: deliberate absence and calculated detachment. The message most observers drew from this was unmistakable. Without official endorsement from the British Crown, the Sussex title alone carried insufficient weight to guarantee entry into that tier of royal diplomacy. Meanwhile, as all of this friction was quietly unfolding behind closed palace doors, the camera crews continued filming, and the footage they were gathering That is precisely where the entire situation began to appear considerably more awkward.
To go away, and how badly they've behaved has shocked everyone.